Hello, everybody. And DM James is here. I need to get a new hat that instead of saying make trench or America great again, I need to get a hat that says make Trench Crusade great. And then, of course, what I would mean by that is get rid of everyone involved in it, including the artists and the creators if they're overly woke and they want to make it a point of being woke, and write the lore up so that it actually makes some kind of sense. I mean, imagine, I keep talking about this and I'm not going to stop. Imagine the idea that World War I's been going on forever. Therefore, no one ever colonized the New World. It's like one thing happening doesn't mean another thing can't happen. And it shows the creators may not realize that the initial batch of pilgrims to the New World, they actually were private citizens that paid their own way to get here. It wasn't like the government did. Two, claiming that the demonic forces have like almost total control of all the oceans of the world is bad writing, because it creates more plot holes than it fills in. Like, all right, so you're telling me the forces of hell, hello, the two of you watching, who are attacking everywhere from the Levant, have also managed to somehow build enough ships that they can dominate every ocean, or at least the Atlantic, let's say. Let's not say every ocean. Let's just say the Atlantic and, the Baltic, the North Sea, that thing, right? So you're telling me this, right? And I'm sitting here thinking, so these demonic entities were able to make enough stuff that they are actually outproducing all of the forces of Africa and Europe, both East and West, when it comes to naval ships, naval power, let's say. That is a major plot hole, because it's like, how? Magic? Well, guess what? I mean, the good guys, mainly the people who serve Christ, I mean, they got magic on their side too. So how is it that the demonic forces, who are for the most part trapped in the Levant, specifically around Jerusalem, how is it that they are able to build a larger fleet than all of Europe combined? Right? And the idea, and they also developed submarines. It's like, you do know that the Germans had submarines, like in our reality, in 1914, right? U-boats, that was a thing, so yeah, I'm just, if the Germans had them, then you would think the Holy Roman Empire would have them. And if all of Europe has put aside their petty BS, which let's hope they have, and has decided to focus all of their resources and power on competing with the forces of hell, it makes exactly zero logical sense that the forces of hell would ever be able to outproduce them. The other major hole is the non-inclusion, unless they've changed something very recently, of the Russian Empire. They did include the brave men fighting the snow demons in Finland, right? Well, Finland in 1914 was an archduchy of the Russian Empire. It only left the Russian Empire when the Soviets took over because it didn't want to be part of that nonsense, and then fought 2 wars against the Soviets before eventually having to kind of capitulate and become, an orbiter of the Soviet Union, like a client state or something. And the same goes for Ukraine. In the lore, they mentioned that the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth still exists. It's like Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, that thing ceased to exist like hundreds of years before 1914. I mean, Poland exists and Ukraine exists as part of Russia. So, again, it's like, I love the idea of alternate history, but if your alternate history doesn't make sense, then it's just not good writing. It's bad writing. And that is the problem with the guys behind Trench Crusade. Even though the game rules are pretty good, and the game plays pretty well. But yeah, there's some bad writing there that somebody needs to straighten up. What's up, OJ Flynn? How are you doing, sir? So now you're no longer with your name backwards. Now it looks like your name's normal, I guess. Whatever. But yeah, so I'm just talking about opinions about how they're going wrong with Trench Crusade's lore. But we can talk about whatever anybody wants to talk about, really. I mean, for a little while anyway. I may at some point want to go watch some TV with the wife. But I mean, so anyway, like I said, wars have never stopped colonization. But it seems like, and I'm hearing this secondhand from someone else, that they have said that the creators of this game are trying to avoid colonization whenever possible. And that, I guess, means that no one lives in North, South, or Central America, since no human being that we know of was native to those areas. Those areas were, in fact, colonized by Asian people and, in my opinion, also Polynesians, which I don't know. Are they Asian? I don't know that. Somebody would have to, educate me on that. Are Polynesians considered Asian people? So if you're going to play the game of I'm against colonialism, you can't play that game unless and be like true to your principles unless you're also willing to announce the cutoff date. You know what I mean? It's like I'm against all colonialism after this point, or I'm against all colonialism specifically by this particular group of people. But if you argue that you're against colonialism, well, I mean, you're arguing that you're against it's an Asian. Okay, so there you go. So North America was, in fact, colonized by people of Asian descent who claimed that there were white moon-eyed people that lived in Appalachia and red-headed giants that were wandering around the southwest of the United States eating people. But if we're going to try to create a game where colonialism never happened, then no one lives in America. Oh, Imperial Guard to build. Nice. Deus Vult. Yeah, that seems to be the thing. Um, and that's kind of what I'm getting at, not your echo. It's like the only colonialism that people on the far left tend to dislike is the colonialism where Europeans win, which is pretty much all colonialism. Because let's be honest, anywhere we wanted to colonize, we did. And so, in that way, we're the bad guys, I guess. And if, and again, I heard this secondhand, that's something that the people who are designing Trench Crusade are taking into account when they are designing the lore. Well, they're already screwing up majorly. And somehow, even though I refuse to get a account on Blue Sky because there's too many, you know, bad people over there. Somehow, I'm hoping to get through to these people to let them know that, hey, okay, so you believe what you believe, that is fine. But for the love of all that's holy, don't ruin what could be an otherwise good game. With real life racist, anti blah, blah, blah colonialism. Right. Yeah, because I'll tell you what, not your echo, and I know that might be something near and dear to you. It's so funny because no one on the right side of the political spectrum that I know or have ever talked to wants to be involved with anything doing with Russia, except for possibly. Now, I don't know if this is 100% true or not. This is a rumor I heard because I hear a lot of rumors that the mention that Vladimir Putin has offered to go into a partnership with the United States in order for us to help them with extracting heavy metals that we would then buy, because apparently we need a lot of heavy metals for things. Me personally, I'm 100% behind that. I don't understand why, since the fall of the Soviet Union, America has done everything it can to remain enemies with the Russian people. But when the Russians were ruled over by a bunch of evil Soviets, we were, we allied with them in World War II. The Jackals want to knock down the top dog and the light of the world. I agree. And off-grid gaming, I would say what's even funnier is if you're writing a fantastical game about World War One, but you're trying to argue that America doesn't get involved or something, again, you're ignoring the history, which is that the Allied powers would have absolutely lost both world wars were it not for American involvement. And I'm not talking about Americans winning battles necessarily, because, the British, the Russians, they fought their asses off and they paid in blood, right? But during World War One, it was manpower. America showed up and the Germans were just like, well, F. You know what I mean? Because every side of that war had lost so many men that when a couple 100,000 Yanks showed up out of the blue, it was like, yeah, there's nothing we can do about it, right?
Hello.
Hey, how you doing?
Yeah.
So yeah, World War One was effectively won by American intervention. And World War Two, we sent so much spam and boots and tanks and guns and everything to Russia and England that for the longest time, I mean, spam was like the primary protein British people and Russian people ate. Calm down, you. I mean, by 1943, 44, every Russian soldier was wearing a pair of leather winter boots that had been produced in the United States out of out of American cows. And most of what they got in their ration packs was produced by the United States. I mean, they did get snacks of sunflower seeds wrapped in oiled paper, but that's about the only thing the Russians were actually at that time able to produce. So, yeah, did the Russians die in the millions to put an end to that? Yes, they did. And they deserve the respect. But they were wearing equipment made by the United States.
Yeah, James, watch your earlier video.
Which one?
The one about the Trench Crusades and Jim Rowe.
Oh, yeah.
I just find it weird because I never watched Jim Rowe, and I was like, I heard you talk about it. I'm like, yeah, that anime makes literally no sense. There is no reason Germany would ever take over Japan.
In Jinro, somehow or another, either Germany takes over Japan after the nuke is dropped, or the Allies give the Japanese all the old German equipment. Because all the Japanese soldiers and especially the Jinro guys are dressed up like German soldiers. They're even using Stig 44s, MG 42s. They're wearing Still helms. I mean,
Still helms, yeah.
The flu also wiped out the fighting age men for, yeah. I mean, there were a lot of things going on. But the fact is that when the Americans started showing up in the millions, that's when, or the hundreds upon hundreds of thousands, that's when the Germans knew that war was over. And also to remind people who are ignorant of history, Germany didn't start World War II. As a matter of fact, they weren't even within the first couple of combatants of World War II. No. Austro-Hungary, a lot of countries beat Germany into World War II. And one of the reasons the Germans entered World War II is because Tsarist Russia attacked Germany. Because Germany was allied with the Austro-Hungarian Empire.
I think
so the Germans get all the blame for everything that happened bad in World War II. They never even started the damn war. They got drug into it because of
again, you're talking about World War One. If you're talking about the Austria-Hungary,
I'm talking about World War One. Sorry. Thank you, Left, for the correction. World War One. Yeah, the Germans did not start World War One. They were drug into it because of alliances they had with the Austro-Hungarian Empire.
That's how most of the nations really got into World War One. Everybody was in an alliance with somebody, and so they were in war before they even really knew it.
Well, yeah, it was because after Germany defeated the Russians and sent them packing, they went through the Low Countries to attack France, same as World War One, which immediately brought the British into it. And, France was in it because France actually declared war on Austro-Hungary because France was an ally of Serbia and Russia, which the Austro-Hungarians attacked. So, yeah, every leader at that time was pretty much one of Victoria's grandchildren or something. So, anyway, the point I'm making, though, is World War One ends totally different without American intervention. So, Trench Crusade, which is World War One, the fact that they are not saying anything about the United States existing at all, and the person who argued with me and said, how would you expect, the English or whoever to colonize the New World in the middle of a war, was not one of the game creators. It was just some random idiot on the forums.
Omanel is right on that one.
Why we should involve alliances? Yes,
Avoid
yeah, that's what
alliances.
Jefferson said. Trade with everyone, alliance with no one. You know, and personally, if it's true that the Russians want to cook up $1 trillion deal for heavy metals, I'm all for it, 100%. But then again, you guys know that I'm probably biased because of, upbringing, ancestry, etc.
I'm not biased, and I still will agree to it.
Right. So, and like I said, in Trench Crusade, somehow the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth still exists, but they haven't mentioned the Empire of Russia at all.
I wonder why.
Because I think what people are saying about the creators of Trench Crusade, or at least the people they surround themselves with, is true. They're idiots.
Well, yeah, I was being sarcastic.
I know you're being sarcastic, Left. I could detect it. And that's why I believe, rather than being like, screw them, we need to just take that game over. Right? And not allow an otherwise good game setting, whatever, to be destroyed by stupid leftist political posturing, because it does appear that that's all it is. And of course, I think all the main people involved with the game are Europeans, and Europeans, for the most part, a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them, have a hate boner for the United States because, it's really easy because of jealousy. They're just freaking jealous because they know we have saved their asses multiple times. Right.
They're just jealous because we're just superior to them.
Yeah, I agree with you, not your echo. That's how the British got away with firebombing Dresden, which was absolutely not a military target. It was a 100% civilian city, and more people died during the firebombing of Dresden than during the atomic bombing of Nagasaki or Hiroshima. I don't think together, but individually. That was just England wanting to get revenge on the Germans. That's all that was. That was a vengeance. The British wanted to get revenge on the Germans
To be honest,
Germans having bombed Britain.
I don't blame them on that one.
Even though you might be forced to do it, Left, anytime you attack and kill civilians, it's evil.
I know. It's like, I'm not saying it's a good
Hey,
thing.
Janet.
I at least understand where they're coming from.
Oh, you can understand it, but it's not something that should have ever happened.
Oh, I know.
Under any circumstance. Janet, who does a show with Brucey Bruce on Saturdays occasionally. If you don't see that, you should. And apparently is also, according to my brother, but he's been known to tell stories, his online waifu. Which, who could blame him, though? I'm super surprised nobody's wifed her up yet. But then again, that's based on just looks. For all I know, she might not, be that person. But based on appearances, I don't know why nobody's tried to wife her up yet. But anyway, how you doing, Janet? It's always been that way. True. It's kind of like how the Tudors viciously mocked the Plantagenets, and even Shakespeare, who was, a lot of his patrons were Tudors, went out of his way to depict the other royal, the Plantagenets, I think it was, or the Stuarts, whoever it was, in the worst possible way, you know, and blamed them for like every evil thing because, yeah, you know. But war is not inherently evil.
Yeah, I know. The
It
Lord
depends
sent.
why you're doing it, Omenau.
Yeah,
I
I mean, the
mean,
Lord sent his people to work a few times actually.
yeah,
I
I
wouldn't
mean,
say those
God
were
did
evil
send
ones.
the Israelites into Canaan with the specific order of going to war with the Canaanites. That so that I mean, but that's a thing. People who don't know scripture very well, or Protestants in the West, they don't seem to understand that the concept of a holy war is 100% biblical. It's 100% biblical. It is justified. However, you do pay for it.
Yeah,
Yeah, how exactly? Not your echo. No one understands it. It must just be she prefers it that way. But I mean, because no one would ever say that when Alexander Nevsky defeated the Northern Crusade, that was evil. And no one would ever argue that any of the holy wars were evil. Now, it is a fact that if you do fight in a war as a soldier and you're a member of the church I'm a member of, you cannot take communion for at least 2 years because you do have to purify yourself from having been involved in the killing of humans. But that's not murder, it's killing. There's a difference. However, shooting an innocent person, that's murder. And you're in big trouble if you do that. As a Sumerian horde always said, a little pillaging never hurt anything, right? You know, I mean, to be fair, when the Sumerians, because Conan was a young kid, if we're going to talk a little R.E. Howard real quick, or when they sacked that Aquilonian fort, the Aquilonian fort was on Sumerian land. What was the name of that fort? Fort Valikos or whatever. I forget. But so the point is, the Sumerians were absolutely well within their rights. The Aquilonians had moved into their land and started building forts because they wanted to conquer Samaria. So the Sumerians were like, no, because you absolutely are religiously justified as a Christian in defending your home. And above that, your faith. That's something that Western people, they get all hung up on the pacifism stuff and they forget pretty much all the other stuff, you know.
I think I think that's how partially they can actually you know pardon Lincoln for everything he's done to start a war.
I'll tell you what, Razor Fist is not a fan.
I'm not either.
I mean, me, I'm glad slavery ended in the United States, even if the majority of my family wore gray. Um, and
I don't think
but
those
there's
were
so many
mutually
better
exclusive,
ways
really,
it
though.
could have ended.
Yeah.
It's like in
Go ahead,
England,
Dr. Echo.
how they ended slavery is the government
Just
bought
not
all
all
the
the
slaves
slaves.
and then freed them
Yeah, and then ban slavery.
and then banned slavery.
They
And
finally did pay off that debt.
I don't know if it's true, but I have been told, I have heard from people that I don't think would lie about it, that if the United States had just bought all the slaves, freedom, and banned slavery, it would have cost less than the war. Not to mention 500,000 plus young men dying.
Well, to be fair, the war was never really about slavery. Well, it was partially about slavery, but it wasn't
Well,
the
it was
main
partially about
cause.
slavery because Alabama, Mississippi, those guys, they specifically said.
Yeah, there was a few that would. It was partially it. It wasn't like it was the complete reason.
Well, it was primarily state rights, but the issue is for a lot of the states that seceded, the right they were fighting for was the right to own slaves in their state. You see what I mean?
Well,
So you can say it was state
I would
right, and you
partially
wouldn't be
disagree
wrong.
with that, though. It was more about the agreement that each side had, and the North not upholding it, even though they said they would, and then just
Yeah,
going
but
reneging
again, we
on it.
go back to slavery left.
It could have been about anything, though, and I think it would have been the same. The South being like, "Hey, you're not upholding this deal that we had," and then
Yes, it
having to
could have
deal with
been,
that.
but in this case, it was specifically about slavery.
Yeah. But then again, also Lincoln said that he would have been okay with keeping the Union even with slavery.
Oh, he absolutely, if the Southerners would have been like, hey, let's call this whole thing off, say after the Battle of Bull Run or something, let's call this whole thing off and we'll just keep our slaves and stay a part of America. That would have been the end of the war right there.
Heck, I mean, the Emancipation Proclamation literally freed 0 slaves.
Well, it only freed the slaves that were in the Confederate States,
Which he did not have control over, so they
which
weren't
he had
really
zero
free.
control over anyway. So
In the North, they kept them in bondage completely. It didn't matter.
But anyway, you dragging us off the subject with all
Sorry.
your slavery talk. But yeah, I did watch Razor Fist talk about it. I have a Razor Force shirt because
I've been watching another guy about it.
I've been
Weird guy, though, but still liked his videos on it.
well, Razor Fist, I've been watching his videos, I don't know, for like 7-8 years at least.
There was
I
another
remember when
guy.
his videos were in like this small little room and he had like all the video game cartridges around him.
Yeah.
The idea of the United States was each state was basically a nation with, the Civil War changed that because the Union used the whole Civil War after the fact, after they won, to pass a lot of laws to centralize power in Washington, D.C., which not necessarily a great thing.
It wasn't. It definitely wasn't.
But hey, we're trying to fix it. I mean, from what I hear, the Department of Education's on the chopping block and states will become responsible for the education of the children. That's a win, right? And they're also reconsidering the rulings on suppressors, which, in some countries, like I think Switzerland is one of them, you have to have a suppressor when you go to the gun.
Yeah, Six never stole Razor wardrobe.
Sticks. Yeah, Sticks is a wild dude because it's like he started out with all of his occultism shit. And then all of a sudden he like segued into politics.
Yep.
And then he got out of Satanism because he started out Sticks Hexenhammer 666, which he still may be, out of laziness to actually change the name of his channel. But he's no longer with the Satan thing. What's up, GM Cody? How you doing, bro?
Yep, he still has that name.
Michael is one of my favorites. If I show you my icons, I have a giant Michael. I love Michael. Michael is the patron saint of soldiers. And so since I was in the Army, as you all know, like that joke, do you know how you can tell someone's a veteran? If you wait 3 minutes, they'll tell you. But anyway, I actually have the Michael curb stomping Satan tattoo.
Because I know a few veterans that don't like talking about it.
Well, I mean, some of those guys that came back from Vietnam are like,
yeah,
they've seen some things, man, and they wouldn't recommend it. Yeah. But here's the thing. The president can make the thing and then throw it at Congress, and chances are Congress will go along with it. He likes trolling people. Well, I'll tell you what, Hungar absolutely despises Styx Hexenhammer. And the reason is so stupid. It's because Styx Hexenhammer rarely wears a shirt underneath his leather jacket.
Okay.
And for some reason, Hungar finds that to be like the worst thing in the world. Like, okay. But you know what? He also doesn't like Seth Skierkowski. And I don't understand it. But the reason he doesn't like Seth Skierkowski is he says Seth Skierkowski has really big man tits. So he can't watch him. And I'm sitting here being like, I don't know. I might be, well, no, definitely not an A cup, but it's not for me to talk shit about anyone else, right? But see, that's me spilling the tea on my brother. Well, I mean, that's the thing too. Like, they even mentioned that in some of the lore of Trench Crusade. The forces of hell are trying really, really hard not to piss God off too much during the war, because they know if they piss God off too much, God will send the archangels, and they know if that happens, they lose. So, you know what I mean? It's like, if you're in the middle of a World War I battle, say Verdun, and one side's a bunch of demon worshippers, and the Archangel Michael with his flaming sword just catapults out of the heavens and lands on the battlefield, you're done.
I know it's over.
Yeah, that's done. That is a done deal. Because, I mean, nothing you got is going to stop him. No one you can bring to that battle will stop.
Seth is great, but that Jack the NPC guy, he has a drinking problem.
He does have a little bit of a drinking problem. That is a fact. And I love him. And you know what? Seth, whether he's got moobs or not, and I'm not going to judge him either way, I think he's a real one, though. Like, anytime you see him playing D&D, he's playing a D&D. And, you know, he played Cyberpunk back when I played Cyberpunk. And he did a great write-up on Conan 2.20. His write-up on Traveler is like a must-watch if you ever want to play Traveler. I mean, that's a real one right there. Seth Skierkowski, probably one of the greatest explainers of how to play role-playing games on YouTube.
Just like the bonsai of doom.
And plus his stories, you know, like right through the neck, right? Bone saw.
Bone saw.
I'm the bone saw. Or J. Scott Realty. Have a showing. Get the F out. Right?
I work for Scott Brown, motherfucker.
Yes, Scott Brown. I have a showing. Get the F out. And like some realtor with a big freaking combat pistol just shows up, starts ganking gangers in the middle of a combat zone because he's trying to sell the warehouse or something. Yeah, he doesn't have a problem with drinking. He seems perfectly capable of drinking at all times. And honestly, Jack the NPC is a brilliant idea that Seth came up with, because he was trying to teach new players how to play Call of Cthulhu. They'd never done
a drinking problem if you run out.
So he introduced an alcoholic private detective who would be there to give them just enough of a nudge to help them learn the game while not taking over the game. Because if there's one thing people don't like, it's DM characters. A lot of people absolutely hate that. They just hate it.
It's only a problem if the DMPC basically takes over the game.
Right. If you've got the DMPC, and especially if the DMPC is a paladin whose whole reason for even being there is to make sure you can't do the things you want to do. At which point it's like,
it becomes the main character, and basically you're just like a episodes for that character.
Channel series, Mysteries of the Bible, very entertaining. There was a time when the History Channel was awesome, and then for a while it became the Hitler Channel
Yeah,
because
there
that's
was
all
that.
that was ever on
Just World War
was
II stuff.
World War II stuff about how Hitler did meth or whatever.
Then it
And
became
then
like
and then it become all about ancient aliens, at which point it
that's
was
one
like,
thing.
turn that shit off.
There was a time between those two where it was like modern Marvels and stuff like that, where it
Well,
just
Modern Marvels was good.
yeah, I know, I liked it. I'm just saying it was kind of weird because it's not really history now, is it? It's modern things.
Well, no, it is kind of history, and I'm not trying to be
Fair.
super argumentative, but if they're going into detail about how
Something
something is
works.
made or was
Makes.
made,
I mean, it's cool. I liked it.
I think it counts. I think
Fair.
it counts. I mean, if I were the judge, I would say I'll allow it.
I mean, I really like their DeLorean episode.
Yeah, Gandalf was kind of like the DMPC, and you'll notice in both The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, that dude vanishes all the time.
Constantly, and you're not
He is
supposed.
constantly not there.
The party's not supposed to rely on them.
That's exactly it. It's like you don't rely on Gandalf. If you do that, you'll die.
Yeah.
Because the second you look around for his ass, he is gone. At The Hobbit was especially true. It would be like, the only time Gandalf showed up is if like the party was getting ready to get a TPK, and like Gandalf would show up and kind of pull their fat out of the bacon. And I'm not saying I would do that as a DM, but hey, if you're
Every once in a while,
one of
it's
those
not bad.
benevolent DMs that's not trying to TPK the party, then okay, fine, whatever. I mean, it's up to you. You be
Look,
you.
if the party shows that they're capable of at least holding their own, but they still are in an insurmountable like point where they're going to still die even if they can, and you just like nudge a little bit in their favor, I think it's fair.
Yeah, sci-fi went to shit when they changed their name from sci-fi to
Pacific.
Siffy.
Yeah,
Yeah, at that point it was like
that's sad. That was sad because I like the Sci-Fi Channel, and then it
oh
just
yeah, before that sci-fi was great. You could watch like Lex, what's the
Gundam.
other one with the living ship?
I don't know about that one.
The one where you got the bug-looking navigator and it flies around on a ship and the ship's actually alive.
Nope, I don't know it.
Farscape.
Oh, okay. I haven't watched that, so I wouldn't know.
Yeah, I mean it was sci-fi, so it had all
Yeah, I
kinds of
know.
different things on it. It was great.
Yeah, it was great.
But
Let's see.
then they changed their name from sci-fi to Sephi and they just got stupid.
Yeah, you could usually find like Back
House
to the
of
Future on
David.
it.
I've seen that on Prime, but I haven't started watching it yet.
What else was on
But I have
Sci-Fi
been
too?
watching The Chosen, and so far it's pretty good. It's pretty good.
They had some good stuff on there though.
The only thing that I don't
I think
like
Quantum
is
Leap was on there too. I can't remember.
what?
Quantum Leap.
Quantum Leap, I think, yeah. Yep, Farscape. The only thing is the Prime I have, you have to have commercials. And that is annoying because I'm so used to being able to skip commercials.
I just download the videos. I don't.
And then when I watch the freaking show, I can't skip the commercials. And it's always the same, like 3 commercials. It's like, we make this great refrigerator.
See, this is why I like actually having the videos on my computer. No
Well, I
commercials, like
guess that is an excuse because I was kind of dogging you a little bit about having all those crazy ass things on your computer. But
anime is good when you don't have to watch like ads or something, or watch it on like Funimation or Crunchyroll.
I got a
That.
video I need to upload where I respond to a Scott Garrity video. If you guys see it, just know that if you're not into religion, don't watch it because it gets very deep into religion. So just don't watch it if you're having a problem with that.
I'm gonna have to go though. I'll see you.
See you, left. Now, right now, I just put the dark metal on these Prussian stormtrooping. So And I'm going to paint their feathers. I think they're red in the art. Let's see. We've got a Canadian. Yeah, a Canadian wrote some mean shit about my last live stream. You know,
What
like
did
if you did
Canadian?
that, we would.
What
We
did
would.
the mean old Canadian say about your live stream?
He said that if you guys took us over, then there would be 52 new senators and blah blah. And I'm like, dude, you obviously didn't watch the live stream. I was just talking about the potato chips.
Clearly.
You know, it's like, don't take us serious, man. I'm
I
just
would like
talking
to
that I love your
apologize
potato
on
chips.
behalf of my fellow countrymen who have all suddenly developed a horrific case of national pride along with TDS.
Well, you know, I will admit, as much as I like the guy and you can love or hate the guy, let's all be honest. He is good at trolling the shit out of people.
Oh, I agree.
And until other people in other countries learn this, they're going to have issues. But anyway, how are you, Bear?
I'm good.
Good. I'm glad. I am glad. I was, talking about miniatures and RPGs.
Well, there you go.
We could talk about whatever. I know you're not really super into most miniatures.
Well, I can't stick around for too long. I got a game coming up at 8:00.
Yeah, I think we should be done before that because I didn't intend on being on very long.
Yeah, well, I waited and waited and waited for you to get on, and then I was like, okay, it was like 5 something. I'm like, okay, he's not coming on today, so I'm just gonna go do some other stuff. And then I see you're on. I'm like, fuck.
Yeah, I just wanted to drop on to make like an hour-long live stream, basically going over you know, it's like weird. It's like I make videos and upload them onto my channel, and then I make live streams to talk about what I talked about in the videos.
Yeah, that's a little inside baseball, buddy.
Yeah, it's like, so no one, I guess, that watches the live stream ever needs to watch any video I've ever made because I've already talked about. But no, I was ranting about how the creators of Trench Crusade have not added America or Imperial Russia, even though both should be there. It's 1914. And their arguments are stupid about it. And I'm just like, you know, I'm ignoring them.
And what are their arguments?
They're saying that the fleet that the forces of hell have built is so powerful that they control all of the oceans. And I'm saying, how could they have ever built a fleet if they're stationed in Jerusalem? And any fleet they build would have to travel through the Mediterranean, through the Strait of Gibraltar, just to get to the Atlantic.
Yeah.
And also, how are the forces of hell in Jerusalem able to make more dreadnoughts and submarines than every other country in the world combined?
Black magic.
Yeah, exactly, I guess. But the problem is, in this game, I mean, God literally does answer prayers. So you've got white magic.
Pray for America.
So, and also, it's World War I, and if America didn't show up, the Germans would have won. Not that that necessarily would have been a horrible thing since they didn't start the war anyway. They got drug into it because of some crazy Serbian and the Austro-Hungarians and alliances with everyone, which turns out not to be a great idea.
I would ask, you said because of some crazy Serbian, but really, I mean, it's Serbia.
Some, yeah, that's not narrowing it down, is it?
You're really leaving that open, aren't you?
Yeah, you know, my Serbian brother
World of Disparate Centrals. Canadians, I guess that extra A was too much to type, are angry they're getting trolled. No, Canadians are not angry they're getting trolled. Canadians are, I don't know who the fuck Canadians are, but Canadians are taking a negative reaction to once again being treated like shit and disregardable by America. This is an ongoing multi-year thing that happens. You guys think it's funny as fuck to call us your attic and your hat and all that shit. And there comes a point
where
we
start true. We have been memeing on Canada for like 20 years.
More than that. And we've gotten to a point where we don't find you funny when you do this shit anymore. It's not. It's no longer. It wasn't funny when your fathers did it. It wasn't funny when your fathers' fathers did it. And the problem is we haven't been to war in a long time to remind you assholes why your country used to have a tremendous amount of respect for us, because we fight harder and better than you.
Well, let me tell you something. I respect you, brother.
I know you do. I'm just saying in general. Like, I see all these videos on YouTube, people talking shit about Canada and this, and it's just like, guys, do not fucking do this. Because the average American thinks you could roll tanks in tomorrow and have us as under your lock and key by the end of the week. And it's like, all my military brothers and sisters in the States go, we'd take your cities, but we'd be fighting a guerrilla war that would make Iraq look like Disneyland. And it's like, yeah, you would.
Yeah, guerrilla war sucks.
And that's what we would do. And we're real good at it, you know?
Yeah, it does suck. I mean, in America's defense, we have whole regiments and divisions that train for nothing but that.
Yeah.
And we do have army bases in Alaska. So it's not like your terrain is really that big of a deal.
Except you have to come learn from us how to fight in winter. And you guys don't
I'm not saying you guys ain't good.
You guys don't do well when you're fighting people on their home turf. You're not good at that anymore. You used to be great at it.
We forgot how to win wars entirely after
exactly.
I mean, we don't. Exactly. But that's because it makes more money to keep wars going.
Absolutely. And at the end of the day, we're not going to become America, and you're not going to invade us, and there's not going to be a fight.
We'll never invade you. If that was going to happen, it would have happened in 1800 something.
Well, you tried twice, and we beat your ass twice, and you said, you know what, let's not do that.
You know, at one point, you didn't beat our ass. We actually went up there and took over the city and then said, fuck it.
You took Chateauguay and Montreal, and that was it. Alberta
and it was just like, what are we doing?
Stop believing American propagandists telling you that Alberta wants to leave the country. Alberta will become its own country before it'll join America. Do you understand, guys? Like, stop. You have a whole bunch of talking head moron armchair global fucking what's the term I'm looking for?
I do know this.
Geopolitical guys who don't know.
Some really good beef. Some really good steak comes from Alberta.
It's not worth invading us. Yeah, I know. All our natural gas, our oil, our lumber, our minerals. What else we got up here? You guys want? Fresh water. The most fresh water in the world. Fuck, why would we ever want to invade?
Are you trying to argue we should?
No, I'm saying
I agree with you. It's not worth invading you guys. One, everyone in the city would be protesting and complaining all the time.
Constantly.
And two, like you said, there'd be a bunch of crazy Canucks in the fucking woods somewhere.
Yeah.
You know, putting IEDs next to every road and fucking shit up. And we would have
there was no hydroelectricity and fucking all this crazy
trying to hunt you down in the middle of the fucking winter, in the middle of the taiga, sorry. It's not worth it. Even with all your resources, it's not worth the problem. We just need to work out a deal where we can
it's better to just be buddy.
And I understand how it must feel. I remember a long time ago, you had a French prime minister, a long, long time ago, and he said being Canada was like being a mouse having to share a bed with an elephant.
Yeah, that's fair.
And he said, and it kind of sucks because if the elephant rolls over, I mean, you're getting crushed. And it's like, you're just trying to live. And it's like, would America please stop doing shit that indirectly makes it harder on us is basically what he is trying to say, you know.
By the way, I'd like to point out, you'll notice that the minute I talked about Canadians being tired of being looked down upon and just wanting to actually be respected again, I started getting negative comments from some of your viewers. And that is the problem.
Yeah,
you want to be our friend, we're brothers. At the end of the day, we're brothers. We're brothers at the end of the day. We know that, right? Like American.
The ones giving you negative comments are Canadians.
Oh, is World Bigfoot Central a negative Canadian? Is he Canadian?
I think he might be, and I know that Off Grid is.
Yeah, Off Grid's got a different beat going on. He's not being rude about it. He's not being mean. World Bigfoot's the one trying to make it sound like we're shit and nothing up here. I don't think he's Canadian. It's not worth invading you as opposed to it's not worth invading us.
So maybe, I don't know, maybe he's up there in like Dakota or something. I know he was somewhere like there.
Anyway, the point being is that we are cousins. We are not even cousins. We're brothers.
Yeah, we are brothers.
We're the children of England.
Came from England.
Yep. And we need to just remember that sometimes, that we are closer than we are further apart. The problem is we had a piece of shit prime minister for 10 years up here that fucking fucked everything up. And now we've got another piece of shit for a prime minister that's going to keep fucking things up.
Don't worry about it. I mean, now people are coming clean, and it turns out the guy we thought was our president for the last 4 years wasn't even there.
No, that's fucked up. The auto signature thing?
Yeah, like, and all the people who were constantly claiming how sharp he was, and they were all lying.
Yeah.
That dude wasn't there at all. And it's like, so basically, as an American, we can't even say who was running the country for at least 2 years. He might have been all with it that first 1 or 2 years, and then after that, he just. My father's family arrived in Boston, but a storm blew us north, so settled in Quebec. Half the family. You know what, guys? My mother-in-law is Canadian. Like, she lives in America, but they go to Canada all the time. She has a huge family up there. So, and I love my mother-in-law. She's awesome. You know what I mean?
We love you guys.
She's a little liberal. She don't like Trump and can't explain why.
Yeah.
But man, she makes great cocktails. She's an amazing cook. And every time my wife and I visit her dad and stepmom, it's like a vacation. Some of you have heard me talk about it, because they have a little bit of money. And so when you go to their house, you're getting steak, you're getting prime rib, you're drinking all the gin and tonics you can drink before you pass out, and you're playing card games. And they play weird, crazy card games. Like, there's one where the idea is to score 10,000 points.
Oh my goodness.
And it's like, you get points by, I don't even know the games. I just set the table and pretend like I know what I'm doing, and eat and drink and have a great time.
Hear me out, James, for a quick second.
Right?
More of us love you guys than don't love you guys. But right now, a nationalist fervor has been worked up in Canada, mostly by idiots. And then, equally gullible people are jumping in on it. But it's going to pass because we're Canadians. We don't like
it'll pass.
Eat our chests for very long. We get over like the worst. You want to be you know how you guys worship celebrities down in the States? You guys treat them like
some people do. It's sad.
A lot of people do. Let's be honest. But in Canada, we're embarrassed by celebrity. Like, we're literally like, oh my god, those people are so what? So what? So what's Celine Dion's a singer? She's from Quebec. Shut up. Who cares? That's how we are.
If I were you, I wouldn't be embarrassed at Nickelback. Those guys rule.
Yeah, I think we hate Nickelback more than you guys.
No, I love Nickelback. I'm not even joking.
In America,
I mean, I listen to Nickelback. Someday, freaking Photograph. Like, their whole first album was freaking bangers, man. I don't know why people decided to dislike Nickelback. It's like one day everyone woke up and said, "Hey, let's all make fun of Nickelback." It's like. And if somebody, all their songs sound the same. Well, that's awful funny because I like the Outcast. And sometimes you can't tell where one song stopped in the air, started. They sound like
the only reason we
every
don't like
song
Nickelback,
is just that,
The reason we don't like Nickelback in Canada isn't their music, it's their attitude. It's like, fuck off, you're from Canada, quit acting like this. That's what it is for us.
I mean, their one song that they do, the whole Rockstar, that song is hilarious, true, and the video is amazing, It's got Uncle Teddy in it. It's got all the Playgirls, Mansion Girls. It's got Kid Rock and all these. It's got the great one, Wayne Gretzky, because we all want to be big rock stars, right?
See, but that's the thing. Wayne Gretzky is just this guy from Brantford, Ontario.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. He's the greatest hockey player that ever lived. But he's from Ontario. We don't it's a weird Canadian mentality that's really hard to explain to people. We just don't see our celebrities as anything special. We just see them as, well, they're good at what they do, and that's respectable. We can respect that.
Well, I mean, I don't worship Wayne Gretzky. I just acknowledge that he earned the title the Great One.
Absolutely. I mean, the guy's got as many assists as he does scores.
I mean, the guy, I mean, I'm not trying to take away from Patrick Waugh or frickin' Mr. Hockey, or any of those guys. They were all great players, but
was a hell of
if
a
you look
player.
at the numbers, Gretzky was the guy.
Gretzky's the great one. And the thing is that he has as many assists as he has goals because Wayne was there to play the game. He was there to not be a superstar. He was there to pass the pucks to get the goals so we can win the game.
Well, that's how you know your true superstars are. It's like Bird was never afraid to throw a pass.
Yeah.
I mean, sure, that guy could hit 99 out of 100 free throws any day of the week. But if he saw Parrish or one of those other guys in a great spot, he would pass all the time.
What about Jordan?
China owns much of Canada now. They own half of America, so we can't make fun of the Canadians for that, bro. Except I think Trump's trying to talk about passing a law that says that communist countries can't own anything in America.
That's not a bad idea, by the way.
A lot of his ideas are great. What pisses people off is he's from Queens and they don't understand that. And I've tried to explain it. If you've never dealt with people from New York, like the city, you have no point of reference. You don't understand how full of bluster and bullshit they are.
Donnie, you have no point of reference.
I think me and Justin made up.
Oh, yeah? Good for you.
Well, I mean, Hungar asked me to play Conan, and Justin's like, yeah, you should join us. And I was like, you're not still mad at me over, being your dad? He's like, come on, man. And I was like, fine.
Yeah, you still an anti-Semite, Justin?
A little bit. Well,
man, fuck you. Burn twice in hell, buddy. Sorry.
A little bit. But you know what? I don't stay mad at people, though. You know that.
No, I just don't associate with people who are that openly racist.
I like to ask him when he goes off, like if maybe the Mossad stole his bike or something when he's a little kid and he just never got over it.
I think I'm gonna shut up. I'm not here to shit talk the guy.
But I'm just saying that's what I always do when he gets started. I'm like, did the Mossad steal your bike? Why are you so mad? It's kind of like that. Was it Family Guy when Hitler was in the gym and he's all mad because there's this big freaking buff ass Jewish dude lifting weights and all the women were all around him. And Hitler is all so pissed off because he's so skinny.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, I don't know. Foreign countries should not be able to own land in America, period, or in Canada either. I mean, I would hope the Canadians would. Dual citizenship. The only country I would allow dual citizenship with is Canada. And I'm not saying that because Bear's here, but because I'm a biased bastard because my mother-in-law is a dual citizen. My cousin Stephen was dual citizenship with Israel, but he died, unfortunately, years and years ago. Because you know what the thing is with heroin is eventually you will die. It's just the way it is,
That's right. It's 100% amongst humans, period. So I think we're okay.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, if you have a heroin addiction, you're probably going to die.
Probably.
Dungeon Minister, the American who moved to Canada.
Yes, he did.
To become an Anglican priest. Which he could have done in Minnesota, but then again, considering how Minnesota's ran, I don't blame him for fleeing to Canada. You know what I mean? If I lived in Minnesota, I'd want to move to Canada too.
Well, and also, no offense, but it does sound better to say Anglican than Episcopalian. Ugh.
Well, because no one in America respects Episcopalians.
No, but just the word. I don't like the word. Anglican just sounds better branding.
Like Anglican, there's an Anglican church near here, and it seems kind of cool, Like you see the Anglican priest out, and you're like, what's up, bro? Whatever. But Episcopalians, nobody wants anything to do with those guys.
Isn't it the same? Isn't Episcopalian the same?
I don't think it is because the Episcopalian Church a couple of years ago split big time.
No, I don't know about that. I just know growing up we were
because half of them started saying we're going to allow openly gay, lesbian women to be priests, and the other half were like, hell no, we're not. And schism, yay!
Ministers.
Yeah, yay! It's a bunch of, or ministers, whatever, priest, minister. I mean, So, hey, everybody's happy to see the minister who had a great video recently. Unless he put out another one, and I'm behind. But yeah, his last one was, I thought, really good. But that's why he's a minister, because he's great at communicating.
No, come on up for ClariCon, get to meet the man. He's a hell of a nice fellow.
Yeah, you know what? Hungar was telling me we gotta have passports now.
That's your fault, not us. That was you guys. After 9/11, you decided that, your country.
Yeah, because last time I went to what was it, Winchester? What's the town across the bridge from Detroit?
Windsor.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you showed up and the Canadian guy is like, do you got this, or this, eh? And you're like, no, sir. And he's like, have fun, stay out of trouble. And the same when you came back across the bridge, the American side, they're like, hey, are you bringing this, or this? No. All right.
Yeah.
That was the good old days. I mean, of course, everything I did in Canada was a horrible sin. Forgive me, guys. But yeah, because back then Canada had, first off, great cheap beer.
Hang on, just real quick. I want
nudity at all the nudie bars.
Depends which province you're in. When I was growing up, it was Reverend. Our Anglican minister was called a minister, and we referred to him as Reverend. We never heard it called priest. Is that like maybe a Quebec thing? I don't know. I'm curious about that.
Well, the Anglican Church is basically the church that Henry created, right?
No. The Anglican Church is the salvation of the Church of England that Elizabeth created by taking Martin Luther's reforms and going, oh, thank God, principles, and putting them on top of the Church of England. Because basically the Church of England was just Henry going, I do what the fuck I want. Henry VIII.
Henry was saying, he's going to be the king.
He reminds me a lot of your brother Hungar.
That's why you're so messed up now. No, actually, I just drank great Canadian beer like Le Blanc or whatever it was, and saw women with no clothes on.
Thank you, Aaron. Father Aaron, I appreciate that. Just for some reason, we always called our guy Reverend. It was Reverend Allflat, and then Reverend Younger.
Well, they're still priests, though, but I don't know anything about their religion. But I always thought they had confessionals and
no confessionals.
No confessional, huh?
No, we do a group prayer confession.
Okay, well, just showing off my ignorance here then.
That's okay. Apparently, I'm showing off mine despite growing up in the church with my grandmother being a bloody organist and half my family being deacons. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I always kind of thought they were like Catholics, except they didn't like the Pope as much.
Eddie Izzard did a really, really good bit about the Church of England, and it's kind of funny. It's, the whole thing of like, forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. Well, so have I.
He shows up and the priest is like reading from like some magazine.
So he referred to it as the religion with no shoulders.
Yeah. My wife is in the kitchen doing something. It smells pretty good, though.
Interesting. Thank you, Father. I'm glad to learn this.
Some Anglicans have confessionals, even though we don't have the boxes.
Yeah, we don't have the confessional box, but we can have.
But if somebody needs to get something off their chest, they can go to the priest. Okay.
But there's no Catholic box that you go sit in. But I remember we used to do the prayer. There was always the prayer for the congregation, the prayer of confession. I don't know what the hell it was called, but I remember we used to say it. I remember I was like 10 years old in the line, bowing meekly upon my knees, asking forgiveness, I believe was how the line went. Now it's been 40 years since I've heard it. And I remember thinking, I'm 10. What have I done?
Hey, if you ever read the book of with Elijah in it, remember those little kids were evil as shit, and they got
make fun of that bald guy. You deserved bear, that's for sure.
Well, I mean, I'm sure there was more to it than that.
So, well, that's not what the story says. But I will now offer my services to anyone. If you are bald and little children are making fun of you for the right price, I too, as a bear, will come out of the woods and eat them.
Or at least give them a good thumping.
Or scare the living bejesus out of them. One or the other.
At least give them a thumping. Let them know. Make a
Anyway, I got to run.
I got to
run my group for the game. So, James, thanks for letting me hang out for a little bit. It was fun. Nice seeing you as always.
Well, it's 10 after an hour, so I'm going to get out of here. Hang out with my wife. Thank everyone for joining. And I learned something about Anglicans. I thought you guys were pretty much like us. And it turns out that I think I'm not too wrong.
We're like LITE. You know what I mean?
Like we have confession. We do a lot of singing.
Oh, we do a lot of singing.
We don't do a pope, but we do have icons.
We do a lot of singing.
And the priest stands with his back to the congregation because he's a member of the congregation.
Oh,
and we face the holy of, the holy altar and everything. So, I mean, but we don't have pews either.
Really? The Cathedral First Lieutenant had confessionals. Fascinating.
Yeah. Russian churches don't have pews. You stay.
Oh, we had pews, and they hurt our knees. They were awful.
Henry was the cartman of kings. George, look up Henry. During his whole life, he was a brilliant, smart, super handsome dude. And then, like as happens to a lot of people, he became the king and got old and fat, got gout, started, he had some wound from a battle or something that never quite healed, I mean, yeah, of course. Yep.
Well,
so anyway, again, though, peace and love to all you guys. God bless. Thank you for joining me. I am currently painting little white American stars on little green American infantrymen. And we'll see how that goes. But until next time we meet, no pews. How do you do penance without sitting on a plank of wood for an hour? Oh, that's amazing, right? Oh, we also, if it's a hardcore place, they separate the congregation with the males on one side and females on the other side, and the women have to cover their head. I mean, it's expected. I don't think they'll throw you out of the church if you don't, but they do have chairs in the very back in case you're sick or hurt or really old or something, and there's no shame in that, I mean, if you've got a broken leg, they're not going to make you stand on it for an hour and a half, 2 hours. You can go sit down. But that's just now Greek Orthodox churches. A lot of them have pews. Whatever. I better end this or I'll just keep talking because you guys know how us Southerners can be. And all of my Canuckistanian brothers out there, peace and love from America. No, you're not getting invaded. You're our friends. We're your friends. We're still brothers. And I know that if we ever had problems, you'd have our back. And if you guys ever got invaded, we'd be the first ones there to help you out. So, we can, don't let a little light trolling from a New Yorker piss you guys off that bad. You guys need to. I mean, I know this because my dad's from Queens, so I know. So I'm telling you guys, you need to learn that when people from like the city are blustering and running their mouth and talking a lot of shit, a lot of times just take it with a grain of salt because it's just the way they talk. Anyway, though, love y'all.